Okay, so 4 years, 2 Emmys, and just a whole universe of off-screen drama. But Euphoria is finally back for its third and final act. And after a wait this long, with so much on the line, the real question isn't just, what happens next. It's, was it even worth it? So, let's get into it. Let's break down this premiere.
And wow, they do not waste a single second. I mean, the premiere just explodes onto the screen with this incredibly shot, high-octane sequence. You've got Rue in this beat-up car flying through the desert, blaring Christopher Cross, of all things, and then she just launches it over the U.S.-Mexico border wall. I mean, talk about a wild cinematic start. It just throws you right into the middle of the chaos.
And the crazy thing is, the stakes for Rue on screen, they're pretty much matched by the pressure on the show itself. For a while there, it really felt like this season might not even happen. The road back to East Highland, yeah, it has been anything but smooth.
I mean, think about it, a 4-year gap. That is massive in TV time. After Season 2 wrapped up way back in 2022, the show was just hit with so much real-world tragedy. First, the heartbreaking death of Angus, and then later the loss of Dane. And in that same period, the cast just became these global A-listers, right? Which of course made everyone wonder if they'd even come back.
Okay, let's just lay out the challenges here. First, you've got your 3 leads, Zendaya, Sydney Sweeney, Jacob Elordi, who all blew up. I mean, they're legitimate movie stars now. So how do you even sell them as their old characters when their new fame is just everywhere? Then you have creator Sam Levinson coming off all that controversy with The Idol. And of course, most poignantly, the show has to figure out how to navigate the devastating loss of 2 really beloved actors. It all just adds up to this staggering amount of pressure.
So, the big question is, how does the show even begin to handle all of that? Well, they make a really bold move, a 5-year time jump. Yeah, we are so not in high school anymore. Everyone has moved on and their lives have changed, dramatically. And it all starts with Rue.
And right away, we get one of the premiere's biggest shocks. We find out that Rue isn't just using again, she's working as a drug mule. And not just for anyone, but for Laurie. That chillingly calm, terrifying antagonist from Season 2. She's literally swallowing balloons of fentanyl. She is completely trapped in a life she just can't escape.
So why is she trapped? It all comes down to this number, $100,000. She still owes Laurie $100,000. And that crushing debt has basically put her into a kind of modern-day slavery, forcing her to take these insane, deadly risks. To put it simply, the hole Rue is in, it's deeper than it has ever been.
And because of that 5-year jump, there's no high school to hold them all together anymore. So that group that was once so interconnected, they're now completely fractured. It's like their lives have just spun off in these wildly different and pretty isolated directions.
Okay, so let's look at Nate and Cassie. Nate, well, he's taken over his dad's real estate business, but he's totally struggling. And Cassie? She's playing this role of a bored housewife, and apparently she's so desperate for a big, lavish wedding that she's posting on OnlyFans to pay for it. It is a really bleak look at where that whole toxic relationship ended up.
Meanwhile, you've got Maddie, who has somehow, and I mean somehow, landed in the super high-stakes world of celebrity PR. And then, in a detail that's just kind of thrown away, we learn that Jules is now living as a sugar baby. Seriously. They are just worlds away from where we left them.
Now, Lexi, our observant playwright, has pretty fittingly moved to Hollywood. She's a studio assistant now, working for this powerful producer who, get this, is played in a cameo by Sharon Stone. It feels like she's one of the only ones who seems to be on, a clear career path.
And of course, what about Fezco? This was always going to be a tough one. In a move that's clearly meant to honor Angus, the show reveals that Fez is alive, but he's serving a 30-year prison sentence. It's their way of keeping his spirit alive in the show, while still acknowledging that heartbreaking real-world loss.
Okay, so you've got all these completely separate storylines. What could possibly be the grand theme holding it all together? Well, according to the creator, Sam Levinson, he's aiming for something pretty specific. A modern Western. Yeah, you heard that right.
So what does that even mean? Well, Levinson himself says it's about exploring those classic Western themes. The big fight between good and evil, the high cost of freedom, and that feeling that death is just always lurking around the corner. It's definitely an ambitious frame for the season, that's for sure.
But the critic that we're looking at here has a bit of a different take. They argue that it feels less like a classic Western about justice, like High Noon, and a lot more like Tarantino's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. That it's not really a story about good versus evil, but more about these characters who are all chasing some twisted modern version of manifest destiny that's always just out of their reach.
All of which brings us to the big one, the ultimate question. After all the hype, all the delays, all these bold, creative swings, does the premiere actually work? What's the final verdict? Is it any good?
Well, the reviewer really captures the show's whole vibe with this one line. They describe it as a hollow purgatory, a world where the characters just consistently make the absolute worst possible choice, all driven by their darkest impulses.
Wow. And what's really interesting is that Sam Levinson himself revealed that the big driving force behind this season was the death of Angus Cloud. He said he felt this anger over all the young lives lost to addiction, and he wanted to frame this final season as a story about a second chance. You know, the kind of chance that so many people, like Angus, never got.
So the final take here is, well, it's complicated. On the one hand, yeah, the show is still thrilling. Zendaya's performance is, as always, incredible. And even when it's a total mess, it's honestly more compelling than most other stuff on TV. But, on the other hand, the storylines feel totally disconnected. Most of the characters seem to have learned absolutely nothing in 5 years, and it really risks having this hollow, just vapid ending. The critic calls it a train wreck, but, you know, the kind you just can't look away from.
And really, that leaves us with the one big question that's just hanging over this entire final season. The whole thing is framed as a second chance, not just for Rue, but for the show itself. But with the stakes this high and the world this dark, is one last chance really going to be enough for redemption? I guess we'll all have to watch to find out.